Welcome to the Tournament Poker Edge podcast, brought to you by TournamentPokerEdge.com, the only podcast dedicated exclusively to poker tournament strategy. Now here's your host, Clayton Fletcher.
Hello once again, everybody, and welcome to the Tournament Poker Edge podcast, sponsored by ACR, America's Card Room, where we have a brand new website for you guys. ACR is better than ever. We've got mystery bounty tournaments, which are obviously all the rage, and you guys know how much in love with that format I am. Well, you can play a mystery bounty every single day on America's Card Room. We've also revamped the entire tournament lobby. Now you can get all the information you want, exactly when you want it. My name is Clayton Fletcher. I'm your host. I'm in fabulous Las Vegas, and I'm not alone. I don't have a guest today. I have two guests for you. One of them is a return guest, one of your favorites, one of my favorites, the Assassinato himself, Alex Fitzgerald. Alex, how you doing, bud?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
And we are in the most classic Las Vegas. We are in a suite at the Tropicana. Now, if you've never been to the Tropicana in Vegas, it is smooth. I mean, you feel like Sammy and Dino are going to walk out from behind the corner. We also have another guest on the podcast, a good friend of mine. He does on-camera interviews for Poker.org and Bally's Big Bet Poker. Did I get it right, Craig?
You did.
Craig Tapscott is with us. Hey, Craig.
Hey, how you doing, Clayton?
So if it sounds like there's an echo in here, it's because we're in this huge suite. This place has what, like a 40-foot ceiling? It's unbelievable. What do you think has happened on this couch before?
Dean Martin's drinking for sure.
There's a bar right here.
Yeah, the place has a bar. This is phenomenal. The only thing missing, you don't have a butler. Can you talk to them about getting you a... Oh, okay. Yeah, it's definitely a sausage fest here. So, Alex, you and I busted the tournaments that we were playing. We were recording this a week ago, so this was recorded last Friday as you're listening to it. I busted out of the satellite that they did for the WPT Championship. I had trips, and my opponent had me outkicked, which is always fun. And so that's how things are going for me. How are things going for you?
Oh, just a lot of the same old. I've been playing a lot of 10-handed because that's what they're doing with the series. And the thing about 10-handed poker is there's not a whole lot of bluffing because usually someone has a hand. And if someone has a hand and that hand happens to be better than your hand, you're in quite the pickle. And I've found myself in that situation repeatedly over the last few events. Had kings to aces, had tens to queens, ace queen to kings, all in close quarters combat situations. So it hasn't been going so hot, but I'm really happy to be here. I really just enjoy live poker these days.
It's a good time. I mean, I know you were playing some things at the Golden Nugget. Now, by the time they hear this in a week, maybe you will have earned a bracelet. Who knows?
Oh, God willing. Yeah, God willing. Yeah, hopefully we'll get out there and get something going. You know, something about live poker is it seems to get easier as you get into your 30s. Like when I was in my 20s, I was jumping out of my skin in these events because trying to get any 24-year-old to just sit still for hours at a time really is impossible. And in tournament poker, you have so many other pressures. But yeah, it just seems a lot easier as you get into your 30s. And yeah, I've been enjoying that.
I agree with you. I think that, especially when we were in our 20s, the players were online players. So maybe they'd never been in it because, before they used to playing 18, 20, 40 tables at a time. And then they have to play just one table where you only get two cards and that's it. And then you have to wait 2 minutes for another two cards. Are you kidding me? So, yeah, I think that there's something to be said for just, having the age and the experience and the maturity to be able to say, well, if it's not a spot, I'm not going to take it. And it sounds like you haven't really been bluffing 10-handed.
No, I haven't run a bluff in the last few events because there really hasn't been a situation for it. And that is not something I would have done. When I was younger, I would have felt like I'm not doing enough here. Like, what am I actually doing here if I'm just sitting here for 2 hours and playing two hands? And I'd start forcing things. And that's how you can't realize opportunities late in the tournament if you're no longer there because you just decided to run a triple barrel versus somebody who isn't going to be folding. So you do have to not try to create the moment, let the moment come to you, as it were.
I like that. Let the moment come to you. Well, we let a moment come to us tonight when we actually planned to do a podcast tonight, and we both happened to bust, and then I texted you. It was like, "Yo, Assassinato, what's good?" And you're like, "Oh, we're having some salad, man." So I met up with you and Craig, and we ended up at the Pinball Hall of Fame. Craig, that was your first time there. What was your impression?
I loved it. It felt like I was back at the bowling alley when I was 12. So it was like, except for the old guy running around telling us not to cuss.
Yeah, apparently Craig was breaking all the rules, you know. He's like, "Hey, we got kids around here. Cut that out."
We got families.
The funniest thing is we did cuss in that venue, but we didn't at that moment. So I don't even know what he was talking about. But yeah,
move somewhere else to cuss. Right?
That was funny. There were no families within 40 feet at that point. But yeah, I guess under our breath, maybe somebody could have heard something.
Well, he had some good ears then, especially with the sound of all those pinball machines on a Friday night. It was a good time, though. I mean, they got the old school pinball. You've got the brand new pinball machines. You get a bunch of quarters. I think I've discovered a great way to kind of fend off the tilt that can sometimes come with the variance of tournament poker. Like, I feel very relaxed. Like, at one point tonight, I was a little frustrated with the way my satellite ended, and now I'm just like, I'm chill,
Absolutely. That used to be what I would do when I first got sober, to be perfectly honest. I needed to find things to do in Vegas that didn't involve partying. And somebody said, "You got to go to this Pinball Hall of Fame." And back then it was in just this really funny, huge warehouse. And it was, there was just a tarp on the front of the place that said Pinball Hall of Fame. When I showed up to it, I went, "What is this place?" But it's got every pinball cabinet you've ever heard of. And it's impossible to be thinking about your day at work when you're playing pinball, because you have to be so present in the moment actually with the game. And did you feel that today, where you could just kind of let go?
100%. I mean, to me, pinball is all about reacting. And so you can't be in your head about anything else because you have to be ready. Yeah.
And paying attention to what you're doing. And tonight was rock and roll night, though.
Yeah, we played Metallica. We played Kiss, Rush.
And Foo Fighters.
Yeah, Foo Fighters, pinball.
Yeah, that's right, the Foo Fighters machine. That was the best one. Yeah,
we were totally rocking out while playing pinball. It was a lot of fun. Now, Craig, we're in this cavernous, gorgeous mansion of a hotel suite from the 1940s or something. Yeah. So what is going on here? How did you end up in this position anyway?
I'm lucky enough to be working with Poker.org, a great organization. Check out poker.org. And I'm interviewing here to watch and interview players who are playing in the big bet poker.
And so who are some of those players?
The players are Doug Polk, Patrick Antonius, everyone knows, Rob Young. That's a few of them. I'm trying to think of a couple other ones came.
Well, Jungle Man was in the building last night.
Jungle Man, Andrew Robles there. Yeah. Obviously the very fun, crazy Eric Person.
Yeah, I love Eric Person. To me, he is so great for television.
Nicest guy.
We need heroes and villains in poker. And, Eric Person, you say he's the nicest guy, but the Eric Person we see on television is not the nicest guy. He beats you out of a pot and he gives you 2 middle fingers. What would the guy at the Pinball Museum think about that?
We'd be kicked out for sure.
Yeah.
But Eric would just buy the museum and we'd be okay.
Yeah. So that's cool. I mean, it's a good spot for you. So you're doing on-camera interviews for poker.org.
And I wrote an article about what's going on with Big Bet Poker and what they've got planned. Their plan basically is to create a very exciting stream. There's never been one in Las Vegas. And it's also produced by 2 famous producers, Houston Curtis and Rick Marr. Now, Houston is very famous. He's written books. He's produced for CBS, GSN. He started in MTV with Backstreet Wrestling and the Backyard Wrestling. But he was also one of the creators and founders of Molly's Game with Tobey Maguire. So that was Houston's story, and he wrote about it in his book. And I hadn't met him before, knew him before a few weeks ago. And he just captivated me with old Vegas stories. We kind of bonded talking about theater. He did theater and slept in the theater and helped his girlfriend do a small production in Santa Monica Boulevard in L.A. But he's one of the top producers in the business, and they just take care of everyone here. They're just spoiling the players, taking care of them. So it's a lot of fun to be working with Houston and Rick.
Yeah, well, they're spoiling you for sure. I mean, this place is amazing. I mean, we've got a full kitchen. We've got this is nice.
Bar, though.
We haven't opened the bar. Yeah, so Craig's not the kind of guy to take advantage of. If he gets an expense account, there's going to be a little something left over at the end. Yeah. He's not getting the room service, surf and turf. Sammy Davis Jr. style here in old school Vegas.
He tap danced in here for all we know.
Yeah, I bet he did on this old wooden floor.
So I'm just just telling people to tune into Stadium or YouTube for Big Bet Poker Live.
Yeah, so it's Bally's Big Bet Poker live every Friday night.
No, every Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. His debut was this Wednesday. Friday's going to be the highest stakes. You'll see last night, Patrick had a rough night. Patrick's one of the best players in the world. He lost $200,000, as did
Patrick Antonius, of course.
Nick Arabal from fame from Hustler Casino Live. He lost about $200,000.
Yeah.
The two amateurs just kicked the pros' ass. Ben Lamb lost. Eric, semi-pro, and a casino owner, he won, and the two other amateurs won.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Nick Airball qualifies as a pro or not, but I know what you're trying to say. Yeah. Well, that's good. A high stakes reg. That's fair. I think it's really exciting that they're finally doing like a Hollywood style live stream game, and the set is absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, it's amazing. So yeah,
you
thanks.
got to meet Houston too.
Yeah. I mean, he regaled me with a story of how one day he won $200,000, lost back $193,000 of it, and then won it all back again. Which, as Alex said at the time, a lot of times stories that start that way don't end so well.
Yeah, usually that's not the ending.
But yeah, he does seem like a guy that really knows his way around Vegas. For sure. And it's very exciting that you're working with him. So really cool. Well, I know the listeners, they want to hear what's going on in Vegas. They're excited for Bally's Big Bet Poker. They're also excited that we have one of the best poker players who ever lived. And of course, author. Do you have any more books coming out? You've written how many books now? 74, 75?
I've written 3 books. I've contributed to 2 others. Yeah.
Nice. And you're back on social media. How did that happen?
Talking to people, saying we got to get back on it. And, I'm really happy to be back.
Yeah, I see you putting out content, left and right, all kinds of content on your Instagram, which is Poker Head Rush, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's Poker Head Rush on everything, at Poker Head Rush on Instagram, on Twitter. You can go to pokerheadrush.com. You can sign up for free training material every single day getting delivered to your inbox. You get 3 free training products just for signing up. You can unsubscribe at any time. Yeah, check that out. You'll love it.
So you can teach people how to, have good strategy and how to play poker. And we're going to talk strategy in just a minute. But what you can't teach them how to do is be comfortable at a 10-handed table.
Oh, no, nobody's comfortable at a 10-handed table. Who loves playing 10-handed, man? It's impossible.
It's number 10 this summer. It's a lot of the tournaments have been 10-handed because we're breaking every single record in World Series of Poker history as far as numbers and how many people want to play all these events. Right. But it's also 10 a.m. If you make day 2 of one of these tournaments, you go till midnight or 1:30 in the morning, and you still have to come back for a 10 a.m. restart, and a lot of players are complaining about that.
Oh, yeah. One of my friends was up till 2, past 2 in one of these events, and they said, yeah, you got to be here at 10 a.m. So you think about it, you're jacked up from playing. You go home, you probably can't go to bed till 3:30. Now you got to wake up and get your cup of coffee, brush your teeth. So you wake up at 9. You're going to be running on adrenaline from that point on. You better have studied before the exam because this is going to be tough.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I know for me, I can't really function if I don't get enough sleep. And last year, my strategy was just sleep as much as I want to sleep and then show up, buy my ticket that day, and they would give me a full stack when I sat down. Not so this year. It's a new rule. They've gone back to the old way. We remember when tournament poker began, really gaining popularity in the early part of the 2000s. If you didn't show up at the beginning of the tournament, they would blind you off. They would blind everybody off. If you've bought in late, you wouldn't get a full stack. And that's how it is this year.
Yeah, and that adds another element because, like you said, sleep. Listen, the thing about tournament poker is you're never going to be playing 100%. You're always going to be fatigued in some fashion. There's going to be somebody at the table talking smack. There's going to be something going on at the table that's going to be distracting you. You're not going to get enough sleep. So once the tournament gets in and you're fatigued on a day 3 or 4, how you slept before day 1 is going to compound. It's going to add up because you're already dealing with a lot more as you go further into the tournament. So if you don't sleep that well, I think it's a really good strategy, what you're discussing, sleeping a lot before the first day, because you're probably not going to be getting full days of sleep as you go into day 2, as you go into day 3. So you want to get that 1-day edge. And yeah, that's just not a factor anymore. You're playing, sometimes you got to rush to the tournament right from the start and you're going to be tired.
Yeah. And when day 2 starts at 10 o'clock, what are you really supposed to do? Because you can't be late for day 2.
Oh, hell no.
Right? You could buy a little late for day 1 and maybe not hurt you that badly, but day 2, every hand counts. So, God forbid, day 3, day 4, day 5, main event, day 6, you've got to be there on time. So I think that is something that they're going to want. The players are going to ask for next year for them to revamp this and, not make us lose so much sleep. Now, Craig, you have a background in diet, nutrition, wellness, and all that. So what advice can you give people how to come down at the end of a long, exciting day of poker? Say I bag the chip lead in like the Millionaire Maker or something. I'm real keyed up. I'm real excited. I can't wait to go back the next day. But now I've got to try to get at least, 6 hours sleep if I'm lucky. What advice would you give?
Well, part of it is not to drink. A lot of people drink coffee after 4 o'clock or trying to have some energy. To not do those energy drinks, these monster drinks, and a lot of candy and sugar and things like that, because it's going to wear your adrenals out. You just need to rest and go home and just stretch. Do something that makes you very comfortable, get some comfortable clothing, maybe take a hot bath or a steam if you can, something like that. And don't eat a lot of food either, because that'll keep you up, because it makes you better.
Of course, Craig has a private sauna in his suite here.
We don't jacuzzi upstairs, we won't be using it.
We don't all get that.
I talked to Alex, I asked him this morning what he was doing, because he had a routine about what he was doing, getting up in the morning to prepare for the tournament, remember?
Oh, absolutely. So one thing that's really going to hurt your energy when it comes to these tournaments is just being balled up and sitting for such a long period of time. And because when you're 10-handed, obviously it's real uncomfortable sitting. And just the act of playing poker is uncomfortable on your spine, on your back, on your body to begin with, because you're always craning your neck, you're always trying to watch the other players, you're always turning your neck, you're always a little hunched over, you're always a little tense. So your job before you get there is to get rid of as much of that as possible. If you don't like working out a ton before playing, stretching is really good. And if you can add just a little weight to your stretches, that can make the stretch a lot deeper. So some I do when I travel to these tournaments is I take my resistance bands with me and I'll do a deadlift with a resistance band just to stretch out my back a little bit. And that makes the hours pass a lot easier, because you're not just this ball of tension 4.5 hours in. You can go 6 hours, you can go 8 hours before you start feeling like, wow, I've been sitting a really long time.
And this is what we talk about, by the way, guys. It's Friday night in fabulous Las Vegas, 4th of July weekend. The three of us had soup and salad. We played pinball. We haven't had one glass of wine. And then we just talk about resistance bands and weight training. We're those guys, aren't we?
One thing I would add, though, is don't get on your phone or your computer, because the blue screen keeps you awake.
Oh, right.
So try to get off your computer and phone at least 2 hours before you go to bed.
That's good. Because, in years past, day 2 would be 12 o'clock or even 1 o'clock for tournaments that started at 11 or whatever. But now the day 1 is at 10 a.m. and day 2 is at 10 a.m. And it's been, humble brag here, but as I've made so many day 2s, it's been, I have 4 caches already. So, yeah, it's been fun. But it has been a struggle as far as, as somebody who does need a certain amount of sleep, just being able to come down. And, it's similar to my other career. You get off stage, you can't just go right to bed. Yeah, you're all keyed up, you're pumped up. It's very hard to calm down. So I'm going to try some of the advice you guys gave.
But I wouldn't be drinking after you play either.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I don't. A lot of times the last level of the day, and I'm sure you guys have both seen this, the last level of the day, people call it the beer level. Like, oh yeah, let's have a Heineken or a Corona or whatever before, the end of the day. Because they're excited they're going to make day 2. They feel it, they got a lot of chips. I think that's a really bad idea, because even a small amount of alcohol can really impact your ability to get a good night's rest.
And also eating light before you go to bed, because some people finish late, like you said, and go eat a big meal. That's not going to help you go to sleep either.
Big bowl of pasta.
I used to make that mistake again and again and again. I would just eat all the carbs. I would eat all the crap. Yeah, and then, you wake up the next day and you feel like, was I drinking last night? I feel hungover. And then you try to play tournament poker like that. It's impossible.
Yeah, you're sluggish. You're overcome with all the extra calories.
Well, I learned a lot about Clayton, for the first time. We've known each other for a number of years, sitting down with him, talking about the positive self-talk too. You should talk about that and the way you wake up in the morning, and it was very important in every aspect of your life, and it changes the way you approach everything. So, is your intentions when you start the day, when you start the tournament, you need to start fresh and like you're starting
So years ago, we all remember they were kind of making fun of Negreanu for doing this. Like, today my intention is to, all this kind of stuff. But, he's pretty easy to pick on sometimes, but he was definitely onto something there. I firmly believe in what you were talking about at dinner tonight, Craig, which is you don't let your mind control you, you control your mind. And to me, the growth mindset is about just reaffirming positive things that I want to be true about myself and saying, you know, I am getting better at going to bed on time and getting a good night's sleep and not letting myself get distracted by pasta or my phone or whatever's going on Instagram or Twitter Spaces or whatever's happening these days, and just, you know, focus on, you know, keep your eyes on the prize. I mean, we're playing for literally millions and millions of dollars. I think we owe it to ourselves to give ourselves the best chance to win.
Absolutely. And, you know, Negreanu has his way of doing it, and everybody likes to give him a hard time. I'll tell you what, if I could have Negreanu's results, you can give me a hard time as well, okay? You need to recognize he got to where he is doing a lot of that. And second of all, you can say it a different way. Something I tell myself all the time to psych myself up when I'm deep in tournaments is, listen, man, you get deep in tournaments all the time. If this one doesn't work out, you're going to be deep in another tournament. And after that, you're going to be deep in another tournament. And after that, you're going to be deep in another tournament, because you just keep coming back and back and back like the Terminator. You're always at these guys' throats. There's nothing they can do. You're always going to be there. You're always going to be on their left. You're always going to be a pain in the ass, and that's what it's going to be today. And you can talk to yourself like that. And as you can hear, that's just like a coach trying to razz you up, you know what I mean? And it's
it kind of worked on me. I was getting excited. I want to go play some poker now after that pep talk. Yeah, I make lots of final tables.
Exactly.
Let's go.
Well, and you know, the thing about it is, with poker, you can't have your coach there. Like, the coach can't come talk to you during the hand. A coach can talk to you between hands, but obviously it would be very expensive to have a coach just watching you play poker. So it's on you. It is your responsibility to hype yourself up, right? There's a reason the military spends so much money on their commanders to get people hyped up. It is a security risk if these people are not hyped up and are not doing their job. There's a reason that the military spends so much money on R&R. If their troops are not well rested, it is a security risk. You need to be that representation for yourself. You need to be that leadership for yourself. It is your responsibility to hype yourself up. It is your responsibility to rest yourself. And you don't need to feel like that's cheesy. You don't need to feel like that's trying too hard. That is quite literally your responsibility when you come out here. So yeah, have your affirmations, have your way you want to do it, and stick to it. It will lead to results.
Yeah, it does lead to results. And if nothing else, it leads to you not second guessing yourself in the moment. So much of tournament poker, at least with my playing style, is you got to be able to pull the trigger. If you think it's a spot, you think it's the correct play, like some of us know in our mind, it's like, well, this is probably a spot where if I went all in, he's usually going to fold. But how many of us have struggled with actually being able to do that? Even though, like, theoretically you might know that it's time to do it, but many of us kind of get cold feet at the altar there, and they're afraid to say I do. So what I think about is when my brain is right and when I'm feeling positive and I'm confident about my ability to make good poker decisions, my job is to make good poker decisions. And then I disconnect myself from the outcomes of those decisions in the short term. Obviously, in the long term, the outcomes are all that matters, right? But in the short term, it's about making the right play at the right time today, right now, and knowing that I have the confidence in my game to do what I'm supposed to be doing when I'm supposed to be doing it.
Absolutely. And another thing everybody needs to realize, myself as well, is you can do what is technically the correct play and still get rocked in this game. It's like watching baseball. If you've ever watched a pitcher throw 102 mile per hour fastball into the corner of the strike zone and then just get it sent 500 feet in the opposite direction, it's not a bad pitch. It was in the corner of the strike zone. The batter was just the better player that day. And that happens a lot in tournament poker, where you go, okay, this guy has one pair. It's a very weak pair. I can see he's very uncomfortable. Okay, I'm going to shove. Now, if he sits there and he takes 2 minutes and he still calls, okay, he was the better man that day, but you still had a pretty good read in that moment and you had to go with it. And if you still have 10,000 chips left, if you still have 10 big blinds left, that is your new job, is to play that 10 big blinds. You can't be thinking in the past, because there's nothing you can do about that hand. Now, the most important hand is always your next hand. And another part of giving yourself the best chance in a tournament is not just looking for the opportunities to bluff. Those are really fun. opportunities. Those are really sexy, so we all like those. But also looking for the opportunities to fold. When you go to any poker room in the world, you'll see people calling too much and seeing too many flops. What is very rare is to find someone who actually is looking for opportunities to fold. If the correct answer, if someone asks you how many thin folds are you going to have to make to win this tournament, the correct answer is probably not 0. There will come a time at some point in this tournament you are going to have to make a thin fold. If you never make a thin fold in any tournament you're playing, you know that is something you're not looking for, and you need to be aware that that is an element that you need to bring into your game as well.
Yeah, gosh, I could just listen to you talk about poker all day. He's got one of the greatest minds in poker, and just how articulate Alex Fitzgerald is in just being able to explain things and help us all see things in the way they should be seen.
Well, I've written for CardPlayer Magazine for 17 years. Very, always proud to work with those guys. And he was always my go-to at least once a year, because I used to write 4 columns an issue for like a number of years. And Alex was always sharp, articulate, so I chose him a lot. But I do have a question for him. So it's been how many years since you were here at the Vegas and playing in the WSOP?
I did not play last year. The year before that, I was here for 6 or 7 weeks, and I played pretty much everything. But yeah, a lot of stuff came up in my personal life last year, yeah.
I was just curious, what's changed with the players or the energy and the game now you're sitting down playing? Has anything changed, shifted in the way they play?
That's a really good question. So in 2021, there was a lot of funny money going around, and it was pretty fun. But at the same time, people, I don't know if it was just the tables I was at, but people were more contentious. And actually, it's been a lot more fun now. Like, a lot of my tables have been, there's a different vibe. There's a different energy. There's a lot of people here. There's huge fields. And it seems like people are just really happy to play poker, and just the limited experiences I've had in these tournaments. There's a lot of people out here looking to play some cards, and it's been a lot of fun.
I've been here since the WSOP started, and it's been that way. It feels like we're all just happy to have the masks off.
Yeah,
and we're just, it feels like COVID is in the rearview mirror, and everybody's just like excited to kind of have our game that we love back. That's the feeling I get. Now, not to say that no one's been contentious at the table. I mean, I know we're going to talk about speech play here in a minute. I've had some people say some pretty rude things to me this summer, but I feel like when you say that you want to be on this guy's left and be a pain in the ass all day, that's the job. That's what I would consider the job description of a tournament poker player. My job is to put my opponents to the most difficult decisions I possibly can. Anytime somebody's tanking for more than 30 seconds because of a bet that I just made, I'm happy. And that's at that point I start thinking to myself, even if she makes the call here, even if she figures out what I'm doing, I'm still going to be happy with my play, because I've already done the job of putting my opponent to a difficult decision. What do you think about that as a mindset?
I think that's a great mindset. And if you think about this logically, the vast majority of poker players do not beat the rake. So if you are playing in a fashion that they approve of, you can expect to not beat the rake as well. That is what's going to happen. So they better complain about you being too tight. They better complain about you being too loose. They better complain about your bet sizes being different. There better be a difference of some sort, because if you're doing what everybody else is doing, you can expect to get what everybody else is getting, which is not much.
I love that, Alex. And I say this all the time. I feel like when I'm doing comedy, my job is to find out what people want and give it to them. And in poker, my job is to figure out what they want and disappoint them.
That's actually a great way to put it. Find what they want and disappoint them. I like that.
Yeah. All right. So I know we want to get into some strategy here. I know you had some thoughts on speech play. And so is this going to be your speech play or somebody else's?
This is going to be my speech play. And it's actually a pretty simple hand, but it's something I want to bring up. So, yeah, should I just get right into the hand?
Yeah, but I kind of want to tell you something that somebody said to me, because as a comedian, one of the great joys in our lives is dealing with the hecklers, right? And so when somebody's talking trash to me at the poker table, I tend to treat them as a heckler. And when you're getting heckled in a comedy club, what you want to do is make everybody laugh at the heckler's expense.
Yeah.
Right. So kind of turn it around on that person. And also in comedy, we try to send a message like, could you be quiet?
Yeah.
You know, stop talking. I'm trying to do my job here. Right. Now, the second part doesn't apply in poker, but I had a player, he was, you know, getting really irritated with me, and he was getting physical. He's like, I'm going to, you know, after the game, we should go out in the parking lot. I'm going to kick your ass and all this kind of stuff, you know. And he was saying all this like tough guy stuff to me, you know, and he was way bigger than I am, you know, big muscles, big beard, like burly guy. And he just didn't like something about me, you know. Yeah. I don't know what it was. I definitely rubbed this guy the wrong way. And he's like, you know, you're lucky there's cameras on here, otherwise I'd kick your ass. And like, you know, and now everybody's looking at me, and some of my opponents know who I am, and so they were kind of looking at me like, you know, what's Clayton going to do with this idiot, you know? And I just said, you're good, bro. You're good. Happy Pride. The table burst into the kind of laughter we're having now. And then he turned red as a beet and didn't speak to me anymore. So mission accomplished there.
That's good.
Yeah.
The only thing I've had work in that situation is to go, it's not that serious, man.
Yeah.
Like
you're good. You're good. That's what I'm saying. You're good.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah.
worry. It's fine.
Just it's not that serious. Yeah, I like how you dialed it back. Or some I'll say is it's only poker, man. Like it's just poker. Like and I also try not to antagonize people. I can't imagine you were antagonizing him though in any
I think it was just the way I was playing. You know, he liked to limp into a lot of pots, and he didn't like that I was, you know, being aggressive, especially when I was in position. You know, but I've read all of Alex's books. Yeah, he limped and I raised, you know, what we're trying to do, what Alex always preaches to all of his students, and he does coaching and, you know, mindset training, and he's just, you know, he's a poker genius. He taught me, when you're in position and you think you have the best hand, build the pot. And you don't have to follow the rules of 3x or 2.2x. Sometimes, I'm going to take that out. That's all right, still recording. Or, you know, 2.2x or whatever it is that people normally do. You can just make it 6x, 7x, 8x, especially if you think he's going to call. And now you get to play a pot with a better hand against an inferior opponent in position. That's what you want.
Yes, sir. And, you know, some I say when people start getting mad, something I'll do sometimes is show one really good hand and just go, I got it, man. And the other thing I'll do is I came to gamble today, man. Can we gamble?
Yeah.
I thought we came here to gamble. And it's like, look, man, if you don't want to gamble, that's fine. But I don't know what you're doing at a casino.
Yeah.
If you don't want to gamble, that's
I love that. Yeah. What are we here for? We're in Vegas. What are we doing?
And I like dialing it down, because if something I don't like is when another guy's emotional, now I can't predict him.
Right.
Because if he's just kind of going about his game, limping in, seeing flops, going with the flow, a lot of people in this life get along, or what is it? They go along to get along, or whatever it is. Once you got a guy pissed off, all bets are off. Now he might just try a river bluff because he doesn't like you. And if he's not playing like his past behavior, you can't use his past behavior to predict his future behavior. So I almost don't like it to get to that point where somebody's getting really mad. So I like to show one hand. That's kind of good for the rest of the table too, so they don't think you're just raising, you know, because sometimes I am running without the ball, and I don't want them knowing that. So showing the occasional kings or something like that, just going like, I like playing big pots with these, you know what I mean? I like that. But dialing it down just a little bit, I find really helps, keeps things in that predictable format.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember exactly. I've played so much poker in these few weeks. I'm trying to remember even what event it was, but what about me was rubbing this guy the wrong way. I don't feel like I was talking trash or being obnoxious. I'm not Eric Person at the table, you know. I'm not like giving him the finger and things like that.
You had sleeves, right?
I was wearing sleeve shirt. I think I had a collar on even, you know. Yeah. I don't know what exactly it was, but you know, sometimes I just, you know, I do, as all my listeners know, my natural style is what would in years past have been described as a hyper aggressive playing style. You know, I'm much more likely to 3-bet than to call, and I'm much more likely to raise than to limp behind a limper. And I think that sometimes just, you know, maybe less experienced players or players that just want to see a lot of flops, it does kind of get under their skin a lot, which in a way is already good. But yeah, I don't like when it gets to the point where like now I have to deal with this guy who wants to like kick my ass over a poker game.
Yeah, exactly. No, just go, this is Vegas, man. We like to play big pots in
Yeah,
Vegas. That's how it
go.
is. It's big money games here. You could just have to be ready for it when it comes.
I really like that. It could have, just diffused the situation a little bit. How much of poker success, live poker success, obviously, do you think hinges on our ability to kind of psychologically manage the environment?
I think it's a lot because, full disclosure, 99% of my volume is online. And it's just because I can get more hands in online. But when I do play live, if you you don't need to pay attention to every single thing. It's impossible to catch every check. It's impossible to catch every single hand in perfect detail. No one is capable of perfect memory. You'd probably be working for NASA if you had that kind of ability. But if you just make yourself stay off your phone, stay off your apps, stay off of texting, and pay attention to the hands, certain things will start jumping out at you, which you might not catch online because you're playing multiple tables or just because you can't see a person's face or something like that. And there's a lot of times you have what I call ties in strategy where you could justify this play or that play, and a lot of it is dependent on your feel of the situation, and your feel of the situation will be much more easy to trust if you've been paying attention to the table. So I think live poker is the purest form of poker because you can break so many of those ties, whereas online there's many situations where I'll be indifferent as to what to do, and then I'll kind of think about that within the context of the tournament, and it becomes more of a game management style. You don't really get to run without the ball. You don't get to do some of these grandiose plays. Like there's some triple barrels I only do live because I saw when the guy called, he didn't need to think about anything. And then you can read that on somebody's face when it's genuine thought in versus, okay, let's just get to the turn card. And that right there can tell you a lot, because if somebody flopped a set and there's a draw out there, there's a lot to think about. Do I check raise to simultaneously protect my hand and to get value from my hand? Do I call here and slow play and let him fire the turn? There's a lot going on there. And if the person just calls really quickly and they had nothing to think about, you can go, oh, that's one pair. And okay, I think he would have 3-bet a lot of the hands that would have made top pair pre-flop, so that's a second or third pair. I'm going to go for the double barrel. I'm going to go for the triple barrel, especially based on how they call on that turn. A lot of times when you're playing online, if you don't really have specific statistics, you can't run as many of these big plays, especially if you're game managing with a stack. So I really do, like what percentage? Like I think a solid 10-20% of the hands can severely be impacted by your feel at the table when you're playing live, and that is a huge difference than online.
Yeah, and I guess as a result, even though you're on Twitter now and you're on Instagram again, you can't be looking at that stuff because you got to not while you're playing poker, because you're losing information. No. If your head's down, you're missing the world around you, which is, like you just said, 10 to 20% of the hands could be impacted. That's a lot. He's a very intense guy, right, Craig? And we saw it at the pinball place too.
Yeah, for sure. It was on like Donkey Kong.
The man has focus. He's got like that. I think a lot of great players have that. Yeah, of course, yeah. That's true. I think a lot of times great players have that hyper focus, like a turbo gear that they can kick in when they need to. And that's, to me, that's like a great athlete, like somebody that can hit a baseball going 102 miles per hour. You've got to have so much focus to be able to do that. We watch guys do that on the big screen. It's like they make it look easy. It's definitely not.
Oh, is this something that you learned or had to practice to get such laser focus in a moment, like in a hand, or did you have to, it was a natural for you?
I absolutely still struggle with it to this day. It is something you can get better at, and I think the way you can get better at it is you need to work time into your day to focus on something really severely. So something that really helps me focus is going to the gym, because the great thing about going to the gym and lifting heavy is if you screw that up, you will know.
You're going to be injured.
Yeah, you will be injured. Yes, very well said. So if you're deadlifting heavy, for example, if you're squatting heavy, there is no hey, let me pay attention to my podcast in this moment. Even if you have something on in your headphones, you're not paying attention. Right. If you pay attention to yourself, you're not actually paying attention in that moment. You're tuning it out so you can focus. And instead of just half-ass listening to something on your headphones, I find it much better just to take your headphones out and just go, okay, for this hour, I'm really going to focus on doing the best I can.
So wait, you're at the gym, no music, no podcast in your ear, nothing?
Nothing, absolutely nothing. Just focusing on the form. Because if you can do that for an hour, God, your poker sessions are a lot easier, because then it starts feeling like a lot more stimuli. Now you got people talking. Now you got chips going in. You got a new hand every minute or two. Now you can watch. Does that person check hard when they flop something they're not really into, or does that person check a little bit more softly when they have something they like? There's a lot more to think about. Now I can take notes between hands. Now there's a lot going on. Now you kind of put yourself in a sensory deprivation tank before you got there. So it feels like a lot more in comparison versus if you're watching TikTok for 2.5 hours before you get to the poker table is going to feel molasses slow at that point, and then your focus is going to be everywhere but the task at hand.
Wow. Now, I do want to see you do the latest dance craze on TikTok, though. I think that's something we need to go. Craig, can you help me make that happen? Do you have a good setup so we can make it?
No karaoke in this room.
All right. Well, this is exciting. I know you have a hand for us. Before we get to it, I just want to make sure everybody's on the Tournament Poker Edge Discord. There's a link in the description of this podcast. All you have to do is click that, and you can become a member of our Discord. It doesn't cost you any money. You can talk strategy with other TPE members. You can find out what's going on. You can sweat all of my action. I've been updating everybody on the Discord, all the different day twos I've made, all the mystery bounty envelopes I have not gotten to open, despite making day two of all of those tournaments. I never get the envelope, man. I don't know what's going on. Any advice? Craig, let me ask you, any advice for helping me get an envelope in a mystery bounty?
Last longer.
I got like 93rd place out of 6,000 players, and I still didn't get an envelope.
Wasn't good enough then, was it?
You did not get any buyouts, that was?
I just didn't bust anyone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Every one of those all-in spots, I just, I kept doubling people up. That was it.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right, so what is your hand from? Do you remember which tournament it was?
So this was the $600 deep stacks, I believe.
Okay, so that's a World Series of Poker bracelet event. Probably had 3K players, something like that?
Roughly 500 billion people showed up for this tournament, yes.
And they all sat 10-handed for 3 days straight.
Yeah, they all sat 10-handed. Yeah. In fact, this starts with a player in the 10 seat. So
nice.
Under the gun is the 10 seat, getting into a wrestling match with the dealer because he's so close to the dealer and dealing with that. So under the gun, seat 10 raises to 1.1K. So my assumption is we were at 300, 500 or whatever it is.
That sounds right.
Yeah, so I'm in middle position. I've been battling with this guy all day. He plays real well. And I call with Queen Jack of Spades. I typically try to keep my cold calls down in middle position because when I look those up in databases, cold calls are just hard to make work when you have so many people who can squeeze on you, especially at a 10-handed table. It's so likely someone's going to have a big hand behind you.
But Queen Jack of Spades is, it's not the kind of hand you really want to throw away.
Absolutely not.
And it kind of hurts to get 4-bet too. So I think, as Andrew Brokus always says, calling is not a compromise.
Right.
But I think in this spot, calling is just correct. It's one of the rare times when you do want to make that call in middle position. Well, what's our stack like?
Oh, that's a great question. Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, I'm assuming we have enough chips to really play around with this.
Yeah, so we have, I don't have terrific notes at that point. I'd say like 20-something thousand. So we have like 45 big blinds maybe.
Yeah, I think that's plenty.
Yeah, so we're doing okay. So yeah, I do find you can cold call with the suited broadways in most positions and still make a profit. So I go ahead and just cold call with it. The button calls too. The flop comes King 6-4 2 spades. We have Queen Jack of Spades.
So we've flopped a flush draw on
We've
Queen.
flopped just a bare flush draw
on King 6 deuce. No, we also have backdoor straight possibilities.
Oh, you make
Don't
a good
forget.
point. Yeah,
Don't forget.
Yes, we have the backdoor straight draw. So the initial C10, real good player. He checks, and I bet 2,000 into the pot. The button folds. It comes back to under the gun C10. He takes a second, and he makes it 7,000.
Okay, so we get check raised on this king high flop.
Yeah.
We've got the Queen Jack of Spades, so we have a Queen high flush draw. I'm assuming he has us covered, so we have the effective stack, like 45 big blinds.
Yeah, he has us covered. We have 20,000 and change, right? So we do have an effective jam if we believe he's goofing off.
And that becomes a key question, like what is his range for check raising us? I mean, the nightmare scenario to me would be that he's got something like ace 5 of spades, right? Then we're really in bad shape. But otherwise, even if he's got 3 kings, we're not that bad off, right?
Exactly. Yeah, we don't have too bad of a situation. Now this is a spot where I call it a tie, where so if I had statistics when I'm playing online, it's pretty easy to know what to do here. If you see someone with a really high aggression frequency on the flop, that's someone who is always finding aggressive actions on the flop. That's someone who might think, oh, maybe this person was taking a shot in a multi-way pot. It's kind of a hit or miss board. Maybe I should check raise here. You're more or less forced to act here. You're more or less forced into a call or a jam, whatever you would choose. I like a jam a little bit more when I find someone to be a little too aggressive. Now, if you don't know anything about the person live, what do you think you should do here?
Well, it's tough because it's a pretty dry board except for the spades, but we're happy about the spades. That's what's giving us a hand.
Yes.
So it's king 6 deuce. It's not like there's a lot of draws available. It's a very different situation if it's like 9 8 7 of spades or something, right? So I don't know. I mean, I feel like against this opponent, we need to try to get a read on whether or not he is just trying to give you fits, right? We talked a minute ago about you want to give your opponents a hard decision. Mm-hmm. I don't know. We've probably got 9 outs, is what I'm thinking. We know queen high is no good.
Yes.
Right? So we do need to improve. So it's just a question of, do we have fold equity if we shove? Or is he only going to be check raising with hands that he's willing to go with? And that's going to be player dependent.
Right, and if you do believe he is check raising with only very solid combinations there, which I guess at that point would be a very good top pair sets and whatnot, would you like to even continue with this hand at that point?
I think so, because you're probably going to be able to get paid off if he's got 3 of a kind, right? If he's got 3 kings right here and you continue and you hit the spade, you've got the implied odds necessary, even though he check raised kind of big, it's not that big. We can call.
Yeah, I thought it was okay. So maybe, I was really leaning toward. Well, I wanted to talk to him here and find out how comfortable he was. How would you talk to this person in this moment?
I like that. I mean, never a bad idea. And like you say, 99% of the volume you do put in is online, and yet you still had the wherewithal because of your presence of mind and your intentional behavior at the table. It occurred to you to talk to him. A lot of online players, they don't even think, oh, right, I can talk to people. Yeah. I'm allowed to speak to my human opponents,
exactly.
Right? So, yeah, it's a good idea because, as I mentioned, I think it's important to try to figure out what is his range for check raising. Is he always going to have a hand that he's willing to go with? Is he trying to get his stack all in? Or is he trying to check raise to, quote, unquote, see where I'm at? Mm-hmm. Maybe he's got pocket jacks and he just wants to see if you're serious with your 2K. He shouldn't be thinking that way, by the way, because there's another player in the pot. This is what we used to call a protected pot, right? Craig, remember that term? It would mean like people are unlikely to be bluffing in a protected pot. Maybe somebody's already all in, or maybe there's another player yet to act. So it's right.
Oh, but that player folded.
Oh, he already folded. My mistake.
Yeah,
all right, so it's already heads up
point.
at this point. Yeah. All right. So okay. So forget that part. He's already gone. But yeah, it's a question. Would you have bet 2K with 2 opponents if you're just fooling around? Probably not, right? Just because the original raiser checks, you're not just going to bet this flop with nothing with 2 opponents.
Right, and the thing being, I think if you can add bluffs into his range here, you do have to continue. I think most people's check raising range there is so tight that I don't even mind just an out-and-out fold on that flop, because in these $600 tournaments with half of Earth playing them, you're going to have a lot of really good situations that you can get yourself in. I would never begrudge somebody who continues, but yeah, going back to the earlier discussion of how you can talk to someone, I think you should just say anything there. you could just say, what does your shirt say? I can't even read that. I like your shirt. Where'd you get that shirt? You know, and then if the guy cracks up or goes, what the hell did you just say? That's actually a really honest response. And if you think about it, what do most people do when they're bluffing? They say to themselves, okay,
Don't give anything off.
don't give anything away. Don't make a sound. So it's going to be really hard to just laugh in that moment. It's going to be really hard to crack up. So I can't even remember what I said to him. I think it was because we were battling. I think I said, what was it? I felt really good about the last fold, but I don't like this one. You know, just kind of letting him know, like, I'm thinking about letting this one go. And then he
Kind of referring to the previous history that you guys have built. And you do kind of develop relationships, like certain people become your adversaries, or you just end up playing more pots with some of your opponents than others just by distribution, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
yeah, you kind of had a little thing with him.
Right. And I guess what's not important is specifically what I said to him. I think it's how you say it. If you're cracking up as well, a lot of times, well, I mean, you work in comedy. How often does it happen in one of your shows? There's just one person in the crowd who's cracking up for no damn reason, and you have no idea why. And sometimes people will just hear that person cracking up, and it's like a fire getting sparked again. People will keep cracking up. So I was just cracking up with him, going like, I felt really good about the last fold. I don't feel good about this fold. And he started cracking up too, and I thought, okay, this is the hand. This is the hand right here. This guy is really calm, and this is a decent sized pot already.
And you felt like that indicated this guy's not bluffing. He wouldn't be this relaxed if he were bluffing.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe it was a little impulsive. I just folded right then. But he later said, he goes, I had it. He said it to me. Now, of course, it's a poker player, so how well can you take their word?
Right.
But I felt really good about it because normally if you just sit there and stare at the guy and don't take the other option, you're stuck. In my opinion, you could really make a justifiable case for, I think, any option there. Like if you really believe the check raising range is really tight because it's a protected pot, as you were saying. Okay, now we can consider a fold. If you do believe you're still getting a pretty good pot odds price, and I still don't know what my stack was because I don't have that written down here. If we were a little shorter, I like it the call less. So, but if you had a few more chips, I definitely like a call a little bit more. And if you really think this guy wanted to battle with you, you consider a raise. So you're stuck. So what you want to do there is get more information. And don't forget, this is an information war. This is what is so fun about this game. It's like being in an intelligence gathering operation, but it's really low stakes. So you can talk to the person there, and if the guy can't form a sentence and then earlier in the tournament he was talking to you all cavalier, that tells you something. Now what you draw from that information is the art form of poker, that is the science of poker, but at least give yourself that opportunity in that moment
to try to figure out what kind of read you should have. I don't know. I mean, I think you've got 9 outs, almost certainly. Some cards on the turn that aren't spades can give us more equity in this pot. Like I'm not talking about a queen or a jack, but how about a 10 or a 9 or an ace that would add a straight draw to the package? I don't know. I think even if I felt my opponent's really strong, I'm still calling. I bet 2K, he said 7K. I'm probably just calling the 5 more, even if I think he's very strong, because a lot of these players in these $600 deep stack tournaments can't fold a set. So if I happen to get there, I'm going to get paid. But it does risk a good amount of your stack to do so. So I can see why you folded.
Yeah, and in my defense, I might have had something a little less, so I don't love the price I'm getting. And if there was one guy who could fold a set at this table, it was this player. This player was playing very well. But in general, I totally see your point. I think I'm more along with the lines of what you're discussing in most situations.
Right, but because you had respect for this particular opponent, you're like, no, I have to call 5,000 more, and then if the spade comes in and I get there, I'm still not even going to often get any more chips out of him.
Right, and I don't know if he's... God, I was really looking at that range going like, I don't think he's check raising smaller flush draws. A lot of times if he does check raise the set, he could just fill up on the river. And if he does check raise the nut flush draws, we're not really rooting.
Then we're in horrible shape. Then we're in terrible shape. Yeah, we can't win this pot.
Yeah, and people are getting better at that. People used to not check raise nut flush draws, and now they're realizing, like, wait a minute, I have a lot of equity in this situation. Maybe I should raise here a little bit more. So that's something you do.
Why do you think it used to be that way? Because I noticed that too. People would check raise a flush draw like on a paired board, or if they didn't have the nut flush draw, but they played much slower with the nut flush draw in particular. Why do you think that was, and why do you think it changed?
I don't know. I think that was one of those plays that went around that people said, oh, I like that. Maybe there's a little bit more deception, but I think just with the solvers coming in, it's showing a lot of things that people thought about poker for 10 or 20 years actually don't really hold water. Right?
The computers are teaching us everything.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of situations, it turns out, when you have a ton of equity, you should try to get more money in the pot. Who knew?
So this is amazing. What a great conversation. Craig, have you ever interviewed anyone that's more interesting than Alex Fitzgerald?
Everyone. No, like I said, Alex was always my go-to because he's so articulate, and I've always enjoyed working with him. This is the first time I've met Alex. You know, we've been talking on the phone.
Oh, so you guys have just been virtual homies.
No,
and you and I too. Like, we've been friends for years, but we actually finally met during this trip. So Vegas brought us all together.
Exactly. And he's also into fitness. We talk about that on the phone. We don't talk about poker a lot when we happen to talk on the phone.
No.
But he's always been like a go-to if I needed someone. And
we mostly discuss pinball. We like pinball. Yeah, that's our go-to topic.
It's all pinball. And for the record, I won enough of those games tonight. I did not totally lose out.
I was a big loser. I tell you.
No, and Alex is focused, man. It's like he's unstoppable at the poker table or at the Pinball Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I got on that one run on that one pinball machine. That was fun.
The old guy scared me, so I wasn't very good at it.
Yeah, he told Craig, hey, you better watch your language around the children, buddy.
I know. It felt like being in a bowling alley again. That's something that would happen in an old bowling alley.
It does.
You know?
The place has old school bowling alley vibes. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I highly recommend it. And they're obviously not a sponsor of this podcast, but if anybody comes to Vegas, I do recommend the Pinball Hall of Fame. It actually really calmed me down. And as you said before, Alex, it helped me focus on just pinball and kind of clearing your mind in that way. It's really fun. It was great. So that's a good tip for anyone that struggles with tilt. If you're on tilt, go play pinball, which is funny to me because the word tilt comes from pinball. Absolutely. And we use it to poker. Now I'm taking it all the way back to the pinball machine. So exactly. Yeah, this was really fun. I want to thank you guys for coming on. Craig, tell us what's going on with you. Are you still writing for CardPlayer now?
Still for CardPlayer. There are 2 articles an issue. Sometimes 1, depends, and talk to the best players in the world. That's a fun part of the game. It's a game I've loved since I was a kid. So I get the opportunity to talk to the very best players in the world and pick their brain, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, just did a full feature with Matt Berkey, and Matt's one of the best in the world, one of the best teachers also. Did something with Garrett Adelstein recently. And I got to interview a player that's disappeared for a while. One of the best players in the world, I think, was Antonio Esfandari. And he lives in LA, so I was able to track him down and say, where have you been, man? So he gave a really fun interview. So PokerOrg is giving me the opportunity to do these different things.
Wow, that's quite a list. I mean, that's really a who's who in poker at this point. Yeah, that's incredible. So pokerheadrush.com and at pokerheadrush on all social media formats, right? Instagram, Twitter, everything. So Alex, what's happening with your website right now? What do you want people to know about pokerheadrush.com?
It is the place to get yourself some free training. If you want to learn how to triple barrel everybody, if you want to learn how to 3-bet everybody, and if you want to learn how to play Ace King, just sign up for the mailing list. You get all these training products just for free. And you get to learn about that all for free if you go to pokerheadrush.com and sign up.
Well, I recommend you do it. I mean, this guy's obviously one of the great minds in the poker world, and you can all learn from him. He's got 3 books out. He helped write 2 other books. He's got free content every day on pokerheadrush.com. So for Craig Tapscott and for my dear friend Alex, the Assassinato Fitzgerald, and for everyone here at Corner of the Poker Edge, and especially our very generous sponsor, America's Card Room, I'm Clayton Fletcher. Thank you so much for listening.
I wanna hold them like they do in Texas Plays. Fold them, let them hit me, raise it, baby, stay with me. Luck and intuition, play the cards with babes to start. And after she's been hooked, I'll play the one that's on her heart. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. I'll get her heart, show her what I got. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. A little gambling is fun when you're with me. I love it. Russian roulette is not the same without a gun. And baby, when it's love, it's not rough, it isn't fun. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. I'll get her hard, show her what I got. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. I'll get her hard, show her what I got. Can't read mine, no she can't read a mile. Poker face, she's got to love nobody. Can't read mine, no she can't read a mile. Poker face, she's got to love nobody. Poker face, poker face. Poker face, poker face. Can't read mine, no she can't read a mile. Poker face, she's got to love nobody. Can't read mine, no she can't read a mile. Poker face, she's got to love nobody.